Ladies and gentlemen, your Season 3 finalists, Lilbow and MaNa! What a tale of two players, one man, back-to-back season finals, looking for that ticket to BlizzCon, but his opponent looking to claim his rightful throne here in Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no reason to wait. Are you ready for the Season 3 finals? Well then, let's get it started! Players, enter your battle station!
Really couldn't have asked for a better final for the Season 3 finals here live in Poland. Lilbow plays for a chance to represent the entire of the world outside of Korea at the global finals at the end of the year. MaNa, from the very beginning of knowing that this tournament would be played in Poland, had one dream, and it was just as simple as to play in front of the Polish audience. But it took a turn for the better for him here, and he's in the grand finals, Todd. It's a fantastic set of two players we have.
Absolutely, it's been crazy. These two, they already got to showcase their PvP actually in the earlier rounds. Lilbow in the round of 32, he got to play against Kung Fu Panda. There was also MaNa who played against Elfie in the round of 16. So we've seen already what they're capable of, and both of them have been pretty scary in the matchup, and I feel Lilbow probably in particular. There was a lot of timings that he was hitting where he had just a few units more than his opponents, even against Neeb, actually, in the round of 32. He had like 10 more supply. Usually you have 10 more supply, you're like, I guess I'm ahead, it's time to get more ahead. Lilbow, no. He's 10 more supply ahead, he just attacks, he kills his opponent immediately. MaNa, all alike. There was this insane hold against Elfie on Terraform, which I don't think any one of us has forgot, where he was down to his last few units. So anything's going to be possible here, and it's really going to come down to who's playing the best in that very series.
Yeah, I mean, it really could swing either way here, Nathanius. But one thing to note is that Lilbow has been so aggressive throughout the week. He has a killer instinct. If he smells weakness, he will absolutely go for it, and he'll easily pick up a win.
I think that's what gives us such an exciting final. Both of these guys have really shown the aggressive tendencies when necessary, and also really clutch decision-making in dark times, especially looking back to the series versus Hydra. Lilbow has to make that clutch call to completely switch his build order around after the Robo opening, going straight into double Colossus off 2 base. Like, it's a crazy play, but he has what it takes to make those clutch decisions.
But in control, we have to look at MaNa, and you know, we said it in the pregame, we said it throughout the tournament. There's just been something special here that has pushed him in the direction of wins, wins, wins.
I mean, it's one thing to win from the comfort of your home and your boxers, and you're like just nothing really worried. But to do it on this stage, I mean, again, we're going to come back to the audience, guys. Like, it works both ways. It's motivating, it's powerful, it's awesome, but it's terrifying, it's stressful, it's anxiety on a stage that's already going to have that. Yet MaNa has remained calm. He's gone to his strengths, which is micro. He's able to make good decisions and control those armies really well, and it's served him so well so far.
And MaNa predicted a 4-2 here for us just now. It's pretty confident, but modest at the same time. Most players will say like 4-1, 4-0, not MaNa. Even against Petraeus, actually earlier, he was like, I'll win 3-2 with a very close match. And in the end, he ended up winning. So MaNa, you can tell, I don't know what it is about him, like being able to stay so calm and collected, because I know that if I was playing, you know, in my home country in front of so many people, I'd be losing it. But somehow, this is the most focused I've ever seen him. He's like the expert of death stares, but this is the most intense I've seen him looking. Every time he enters the stage, not a smile, nothing. Pre-game.
He's completely powered up there, Nathanius, on the stage.
Yeah, there's just something about knowing so many people are cheering for you, giving you their energy, and it's so crazy because we know Lilbow's gotten the backing of the whole community this whole year. The whole French scene's been rising up so much, but MaNa really took advantage of the opportunity that so many Polish players wanted when the venue was announced for this Season 3 finals.
Yeah, this is definitely a great victory if MaNa was able to do it, but we have to switch our focus back to Lilbow a little bit here. Lilbow, you know, is the first player since 2013 to get towards a final here last season. He's the first player in history to get 2 finals back-to-back as a non-Korean, as a European player. And for the first time since 2013, I know a lot of people at home remember the name Naniwa, of course, played at BlizzCon back in 2013. Lilbow is on the cusp of doing it since then, and it's a remarkable feat, which, to be honest, I don't know if many people thought we would ever see a European play at BlizzCon again.
Yeah, it's a great chance here that he has. Everybody remembers Naniwa here, by the way, I'm pretty sure. But Lilbow, it seems like he's the new kid on the block, where he doesn't have as much experience as MaNa. But in France, we have a very strong Protoss scene. We have a lot of very good Protoss players. He's won that French championship like, 17 times now, beating guys like T-Drogo, and very consistently doing well against Protoss. Whereas MaNa, I feel like he's going to have the seniority. With more experience, he's been playing StarCraft for much longer. So it's an interesting fight, you know, of experience against someone who's rather new on the scene, but does so well here in Lilbow.
Well, I think it's kind of cool, too, because it's been unrelenting aggression from Lilbow. Like, that's all of his games, guys. He's lost a few in these series, had to come back, but it's always been through his aggression he wins or loses. And for MaNa, I think about his defining moments. I think Todd hit the nail on the head. I hope a lot of you guys saw it. His hold against Elfie, where he was down 15, 20 supply in a PvP to come back and win. And we've seen it again, even here. It's the defender versus the attacker, and it's here in the grand finals. Who's gonna prevail?
Well, let's have a look at the map order, should we say now. This is a best of 7. There are no vetoes left, Todd. You've got to play every single map, 7 maps if need be. Talk to us about the map order here. Talk to us a little bit about momentum. Are we going to see aggressive plays at the start, maybe more defensive setups? What are you expecting?
It seems like Lilbow picked the 4-player map here, so maybe wanting to rely on I guess he's good at adaptation skill, where, you know, on these maps it can be a little bit unpredictable. Depending on how you scout, you're going to see your opponent late. So maybe this might be an indicator that he's ready to scout, ready to put in some work, just to adapt very well and not necessarily try to surprise MaNa. Even though both players, there is the potential they might throw in something crazy. Dash and Terminal and Moonlight Madness being the last 2 maps with Bridgehead just before doesn't surprise me. I really expected these maps to be at the very bottom.
Can't help but feel, Nathanius, if MaNa is able to pick up momentum, go 1-0, go 2-0, he'd be almost unstoppable with the support he'd be getting from the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't wait to see as this final progresses. You know, I'm hoping for a close series just because of that. The energy in this venue has been palpable all weekend long. I want to see it peak. I want to see it peak here in the grand final.
We could have actually some very interesting games if it comes down to map number 5, 6, or even 7, because everybody has vetoes on ladder. And I'm pretty sure that both of these players, they veto a few maps. That means that they don't play them in PvP. So if they play a map that they don't usually play, who knows what might happen? Proxy Stargate, Dark Shrine hidden on the map. Some crazy stuff
Going to start to get crazy towards the end of the series goes. Let's have a quick look at map number 1 then. So map number 1 is going to be Cactus Valley. You talked about it being a 4-player map. In Control, some other extra thoughts?
Well, yeah, just that it is a 4-player map, so scouting is not a reliable guarantee for either player, so that can sometimes open up the earlier pressure, which we haven't seen as much of, like 3 gates or the legendary 4-gate of the years past. Going on from there, both these players are big fans of Blink Stalkers. It's a huge thing in this map, and there's a lot of cliffs kind of up and down on the 3rd base if we get to that point. So look for some aggressive blinks and kind of the movement there, I would say. All
right, Nathanius, final thoughts on this series. We're almost ready to start the grand finals.
Hey man, I'm a Terran player, and as much as as much as I claim to be a fanboy of guys like 4GG and Marine Lord, I couldn't be more excited to see 2 guys I've been able to follow all year long go head to head.
All right, so we don't have predictions for absolutely everybody here, but I'd love to know who you think's going to win this. Nathanius, I want to start with you on the end there. Who's taking this one home? Is it the home crowd favorite MaNa, or is it going to be the player that qualifies for BlizzCon? Absolutely, you got to start this, buddy.
Oh, man, you know, I spend too much time watching the O-Gaming stream with breakfast, man. I have to go with the Frenchie on this one. I'm picking Lilbow.
I think the crowd are going to respect that. Of course, a lot of line on for Lilbow. Todd?
I think I'm the one guy that's you don't even need to ask.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm going to say just your French accent told us all.
Lilbow.
Look, I'm riding the hype train. I believe MaNa's going to dig this one out, and I think he's going to win it for Poland.
There you go. You've got 1 out of 3.
What about you?
No,
you can't get away from this one. This is the last match.
I'm not allowed
He's
to.
the host.
You know what? I'm going to do it anyway. I think MaNa's going to win.
All right, they'll have time to wake up. They'll have time to wake up. It's fine.
Todd, you're our PvP expert on this panel. Please give us some last thoughts before we jump into it.
You know, I think both of these players, they should be trying to look and open standard, like not take too big risks, see where they're at, and then if one of them struggles a little bit more in terms of being 2 base against 2 base or even 3 base against 3 base, then we might start seeing something a little bit crazier. But opening with a very aggressive build here and failing in map number 1 might be setting the pace in the wrong way for one of these 2. So I expect maybe, you know, Blink against Stargate and then 2 base against 2 base, and then from there Colossus take. Lasers everywhere.
Lasers. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to get ready for the grand finals. And who else should cast the finals? It's none other than Tasteless and Autosis.
What is up? We are here in the grand finals. And I got to say, this has been the perfect tournament. And also, I got to say, the perfect audience. Artos, do you have anything you want to say to the people that are watching here live? Yakshe Mache! Guys, it has been so great to be down here and see this tournament unfold. It's a very unexpected two individuals in the finals. You know, we've had it happen so many times it's almost become hacking that we had Koreans over and over and over again, either winning the finals or it's an all-Korean final. So this is a real treat. Let's get hype. Let's get ready. We're going into game number 1 in the grand finals of the WCS Europe. In the bottom left, in the blue, make some noise for Lilbow! And in the upper right, in the red, from Poland, make some noise for MaNa!
Here we are, Tasteless, an exciting match to say the least. We are going to have a European WCS champion in about an hour.
Yep, it's a PvP, it's a mirror matchup. Now, this matchup in StarCraft 2 is one where there's a lot of different things you can do in the early game. It's also a matchup where the Protoss is, obviously both Protoss is quite fragile early on. So a few things can go wrong and you can lose immediately. If not, they should both get 2 bases up and then we should have a game that will pan out into a longer StarCraft 2 match.
Yeah, that's well said. It's a very precise matchup, and when you're playing with the same units as your opponent, if he has more, he's gonna win, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As you can see here, we already have some probes coming out now. This was mentioned at the expert desk, but I want to highlight this again over here. It's a 4-player map, so unlike a one-on-one map, you know, on a one-on-one map, you know your opponent's starting location, right? So there's plenty of things you can do to try to come in there and punish them. But on this map, because you don't know exactly where they start, you might not find the information in time when you do get there into one of those other 3 starting locations on the 4-player map.
That's right.
And that's something very important to factor in, is you might just not get the intel you need, and then you're going to have to make do with what you have.
Yeah, and that really can add a very tough factor into the game. But we see here both of them will scout each other at their second try, which means they get the scout off. They get to see how much gas have you mined, what buildings do you have. So neither of these players should be playing too much in the dark.
Now, they are going to both discover at about the same time here that they are in cross positions here. So they are as far as possible from each other on this map. Now, you got to be careful, though, because when you're in cross spots, in this case, bottom left versus top right, there's actually 2 different angles where they might try to hide proxy pylons out there, and that's something pretty scary, because they get that proxy pylon out there and start warping in stuff without you knowing it, you can really be punished.
Oh, it's certainly the case, and it's going to be hard to find that for them. So we'll see if anyone tries to hide any tech on this map, any buildings on this map, but for now, we do see their tech choices. Both players going for the Twilight Council.
Twilight Council builds, this can get a little bit tricky here. We're going to see if it's going to be either the Blink upgrade or possibly a Dark Templar upgrade. Those are the only 2 real routes you can take, assuming you're going to utilize that structure, which obviously you're going to want to in a match as important as this.
That's right. Well, right now we do have both players adding some gateways on. We do have Blink being researched by Lilbow. We'll see from MaNa in just a second here what he wants. Blink as well. So these 2 players doing pretty much exactly the same strategy.
So a lot of this will just come down to control. You make a few misclicks here in the Stalker versus Stalker fights, and things can fall apart pretty quickly. It'll also depend on whether or not, if they do identify, and if one player identifies that the other's doing the same thing, do you just stay back and try to let him feed in? Now, we do have a deviation over here, Artosis, in one of these builds. We do now see our Polish player, MaNa, actually now getting a robotics facility.
That's right, and that robotics facility does tell us something pretty big here, that he's going to play it a little bit safer. He's afraid that there might be something like Dark Templars coming, so he wants to get that detection, the formative observer, out.
And conversely, over here for our French player, Lilbow, is now making a Nexus. So Lilbow, we're already getting the tell here for at least what these two guys are thinking about each other. Lilbow's pretty confident. If he's not feeling confident, then he's feeling greedy, because he's going to go ahead and throw this Nexus down here. MaNa just now spots that. There was nothing there to deny the scouting probe. And so let's see now, how exactly does MaNa react?
Well, MaNa, I think he's going to have to go ahead and throw down his own Nexus. And in fact, that is what he's going to do right away, realizing, okay, there's no way for me to kill my opponent right now, so I have to expand right behind him.
And you can really see that is both of these players playing very conservative games here. There are plenty of games before we get to declare a winner, but they don't want to take anything major and risk it too soon.
That's right. MaNa just wrecked that probe, guys. Looking good for him.
Did deny that probe, and also denied the intel that there was actually a...
Whoa.
What was that?
Big misclick here from
I think there might be
Lilbow.
some nerves firing here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, I've been casting StarCraft for a long time, and that's not a thing.
No, you don't just put a force field down in the middle of your choke when you're walking out of it.
So a bad play there by Lilbow, and it looks like he wants to be aggressive, although I'm not sure how useful that sentry is going to be with a little bit less energy. Now the Observer sees it, so we have MaNa now backing up. Can MaNa hang on as this rush is about to begin? We have the proxy pylon hidden, undetected by MaNa. Looks like Lilbow should be attacking very soon.
Well, you know what, Lilbow, he did go ahead and skip that robotics, so he has more money put into his Stalkers. He has more Stalkers right now, and we need MaNa to get this Nexus up if he wants to hold. He's going to need a Nexus cannon. Here we go, the Nexus cannon does go up. Lilbow pressing forward, targeting down these Stalkers.
And it doesn't look like MaNa's going to be able to do very much as they get blinked on top of MaNa. Blinks back up to the high ground. The Mothership core goes down with a force field there blocking off the Stalkers, at least for a little bit. It looks like Lilbow's been doing a decent amount of damage. However, with a Nexus cannon, coming down here, it's a lot of additional damage here for Lilbow. This is a down and dirty fight.
It certainly is. He's taking his advantage, and he is running with it. That Nexus cannon dealing out huge amounts of damage, but he has more Blink Stalkers, and now they're in MaNa's base.
It looks like we're going to have some more Stalkers warped in over here for MaNa. As MaNa desperately trying to chase out these Stalkers, but the Immortal comes out. The Stalkers have to back up, and MaNa will be safe for now.
Nice hold there by MaNa. That was really scary. Lilbow having some killer instincts, striking when he had just 4 more Stalkers and getting some damage done. But when we look at it right now, it's a very even game.
Looks like he smells blood in the water. He wants to come in here and possibly do another engagement. Now, he does have a Mothership core with his army. He's unloading Chrono Boost to speed up production. And hold up, the Immortal might go down.
Yeah, he targets that Immortal down very, very quickly. It does get a lot of damage off, but we do see MaNa with some nice Blink Stalker micro at the moment. Blinking back, trying to keep all of his Stalkers alive, and it looks like MaNa should be able to hold.
MaNa just barely hanging on, but we'll see for how long exactly as the weakened Stalkers are now getting obliterated. A few more bruised Stalkers still remaining as MaNa just barely seems to be hanging on.
That's right, he is up a single Stalker, robotic tech, and 3 probes right now. So MaNa has an advantage. He is held against this strong attack from Lilbow very well.
Probe count right now pretty even, 27 workers to 28 with MaNa and a 1-worker lead. Lilbow is still trying to poke in, but it looks like this should be now the termination of the rush, as he's going to have to go back and try to build up.
That's right, he's going to have to. It didn't end up working out. It looked at the beginning like he may be able to deliver an early death blow to MaNa there, but MaNa holding on with that Immortal, some great micro as well. And he does have a slight advantage, but he's going to have to do a lot more than that to win this game.
Artosis, I believe Lilbow is actually going to try to set up here for a possible counterattack. He can keep these Stalkers over here in the center right, and let's say MaNa decides that he's going to try to take advantage of the lead he's developed. MaNa can then try to push out across the map. Lilbow can then try to punish that push out by blinking into the expansion or into the main there. Let's see if he does that. Actually, now that I say that, he's just returning home entirely. So perhaps Lilbow saying to himself, on a map this big, I don't want to risk not being able to detect the army moving through the map and then punishing me.
Indeed. Well, it's good for him to pull back. He is at a slight disadvantage right now, just getting his robotics, while MaNa continuing to add robotics units, which are just so powerful in this matchup. So it's still looking quite nice for MaNa, and he's taking map control for the first time this game.
MaNa now pushing out. The Observer can obviously make it much easier here for MaNa to count the Stalkers. Now the question is, will MaNa engage here? Lilbow might be caught a little bit off guard, and it looks like MaNa going to do just that.
Blinking right in, targeting down a Stalker almost immediately, pushing forward. Some great micro here by MaNa. He's taking out so many Stalkers. Lilbow could be in a lot of trouble here.
Both these guys trying to blink in the midst of the animation of the laser of each Stalker's blink to try to dodge, because that the laser has to actually connect for damage too. Input there, so nicely done there by both of them. MaNa now goes back to lick his wounds, and this game continues. We do have a lot, though, of reinforcements coming here across the middle of the map here for MaNa. More Stalkers, as well as an Immortal Sentry and 2 Zealots here, and he might try to push in here again. When you have an Immortal, you're very strong against an all-Stalker army.
That's very true, and there's no Mothership Core for Lilbow. He skipped a lot of things to get all these Stalkers, so MaNa actually has a really strong army at the moment. He has another Immortal that's on the way. He has a Sentry for Guardian Shield. He could take this fight.
Now, one thing that is important to note about MaNa is that MaNa, throughout this tournament, has been a lot of times very conservative. He doesn't want to engage unless he's very sure he can win. So we saw him backing up there. He may try to engage in here again. Normally in a PvP, when you get to 2 bases going on for a while, you're going to get a pretty long game. But at least for now, it does seem like MaNa still has some interest in trying to end this pretty quickly.
Well, there are a lot of Stalkers out for Lilbow, as we see here right on the screen. In fact, he has 21, so he might actually be going for another big attack coming up. He's not investing in a lot of tech. He just has that single Observer, so he's going to have to utilize the blink capability as well as the mobility of this army to somehow kill off MaNa here before his army becomes too strong.
This means that MaNa's army could get sandwiched over here. He now sees the Stalkers are completely out of position. Does Lilbow actually come down here and try to engage the Stalkers? I think he does.
Bad news from MaNa. He tries to blink out of here, but Lilbow has a big advantage, pushing forward, taking down so many Stalkers.
The Stalker count so reduced here. There are Immortals, but now Lilbow is gunning them down with very, very good control, and I'm a little bit worried that MaNa might not be able to hang on here.
No, he's down 7 Stalkers at the moment. He does have another Immortal coming down. His probe's being pulled, but right now Lilbow with this huge advantage on these Stalkers. Some great blink micro coming out, losing almost nothing.
The Stalkers now backing up. No probes here at the expansion to mine minerals, and I'm just not sure if there's really any way for MaNa to pull a rabbit out of his hat right now. There's just nothing that he can do. GG! Lilbow takes game number 1.
A big smile there on Lilbow's face. He knows that MaNa was ahead at times during this game, but he found MaNa out of position with those blink Stalkers and pounced. Some great killer instinct throughout the game.
MaNa played a very good game there, but when those Stalkers, I mean, when you get them in a spot like that, and that's something that can happen on a big map like that. We were saying this earlier. They're in cross spots, bottom left versus top right. There's so many locations where you're just going to be out. You can be out of position, and that's exactly what happened. MaNa, it looked like before that game had ended, he had his Stalkers south on the map. Looks like he wanted to try to blink in to the main and gun down some probes or anything he could there, because he had an Observer. He could, maybe try to see into some part of that, or possibly do some other kind of punishment. But then the Stalkers were moving up to the upper right, and when he saw that happening, he tried to run back up, and unfortunately he walked right by a weapon of Lilbow. Lilbow saw that, went for the kill, and punished.
Yeah, MaNa hesitated for a moment when he saw those Stalkers blinking. If he had gone straight to blink into his natural expansion, he would have been able to escape with most of the Stalkers at least, and that could have made the whole game different. But Lilbow was just very quick, very on top of things, and punished MaNa instantly. But you know what? That first game, more than anything, shows how evenly matched these two players are.
Game number 2 is going to be on Terraform. Any thoughts on these two players and how they should play this before we go into our map?
I think we're going to see a lot of mind games coming out of these two. They are, as we just saw, very evenly matched. So a lot of this does come down to what do they do in the early game? Can someone get an advantage on their opponent?
Yeah, we'll have to see what exactly they got in store for us here. I think MaNa definitely learned a little bit from that last game. Lilbow, by the way, he won that last game, but let's go back just for a second. Remember when we saw that force field go down? out of nowhere. I mean, I think the pressure is really starting to catch up to these two guys.
Well, this right now this is the biggest match of Lilbow's life, no doubt about it. In fact, both of them. But Lilbow, if he wins this, he goes to BlizzCon, and there's no more pressure than that.
Map number 2 is Terraform, as we mentioned earlier. This is a different map by far compared to Cactus Valley. This is a map where you know your opponent's starting location. When you know your opponent's starting location, you can do things like build, gateways or, right outside their base, or make a pylon or a Stargate or anything like that. And that's always a good idea to try to pull off in a best of 7, first to 4 wins, because on a map like that, you could definitely, punish somebody and also disguise the builds you might have. But enough about that. We're going into game number 2, so let's make some noise. Lilbow against MaNa here in the WCS Europe Finals. In the bottom right, in the blue, from France, he is Lilbow! And in the upper left, in the red, from Poland, he is MaNa!
Has got to take this game, I would say, Tasteless. It's really important. If he goes down 0-2, that might get him kind of into a funk.
Yeah, I mean, it starts to pile up, right? It really does. You lose one game, it's a best of 7, right? It's okay, but you lose a second game and you're thinking, man, I'm really running out of options here. I'm really running out of room for error. We got the wave going on down here. Fantastic audience here tonight.
Oh, I do have to say, guys, here in Krakow, we have been all over the world, and you guys are the best audience we have ever seen.
Yeah, best audience by far. And I got to say, man, just one other quick note, that trailer was really sick, Artosis.
It certainly
was.
Finally, the Archon
the
gets
Archon
its day in the light.
That's right, that's you and me in that trailer, man. Turn it into an Archon right there. And the arm that hit the Ultralist, that was the Tasteless arm that hit that.
Certainly
so,
was.
Yeah. Anyways, on into this game. Again, PvP, pretty volatile early on. There's a lot of different builds and little branches within those builds. You can disguise a lot in a PvP, and you can put on a lot of pressure early on.
Yeah.
So, what's fun about these two guys is because it's a matchup like this, and these two players do have fairly different play styles, we should have a pretty good variety of different kinds of games.
Well, I was very interested to see in the last game that Lilbow was the one going to play a little bit more greedy, whereas MaNa wanted to play the kind of safer game. Now, will that occur again here? We're about to see.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. Now, they do have the mothership cores out here. Occasionally, you'll see players using that to actually just go in there and scout. No matter what, if they can't get the right intel, that's always one option in PvP. But if you're using that, then you're also giving up the option to use a Nexus cannon. So it's something you definitely have to factor in.
Well, we do have the tech choices, and it looks like MaNa going for that Twilight Council once again. Meanwhile, Lilbow with the Stargate.
Stargate it is. So we have 2 different paths chosen by these 2 different players. We can get a little bit more specific answers about what MaNa's doing once we see how he techs from there. But it looks like for Lilbow, our French player, he should be going for an Oracle, probably going to try to go inside of the main here for MaNa, try to kill off some probes.
Yeah, let's see him start that up. Of course, we should be seeing Blink start for MaNa. There it goes. He is going up to 3 gateways as well. If he decides to get aggressive, that could be difficult for Lilbow to end up holding on. But Oracle is a pretty good opening against pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's a very well-rounded opening, so it's definitely there's not an easy answer for this, and it's also you can end up winning really fast with it, or you can end up going into a pretty standard game here. With the probe mining the mineral there, that usually means they're trying to time out to make a Nexus over there. So we're gonna have a fast expanding Lilbow with MaNa definitely having well, it looks like he will just be expanding possibly on his own here as well. So they're going to be pretty even. It's pretty neck and neck right now as far as economics goes. Just a few different tech options.
Now this part is really important. MaNa has that Oracle, and he's going to have to try to get some kills off. The Oracle is one of the most deadly units in the early game of Protoss. If he can get in there and get 4 or 5 probes, it's going to give him a big advantage. Okay, he scouts the Nexus. That's important, but can he actually get in there and kill any probes?
Well, that's what we need to find out, and that's going to happen right now. He's going to come in there, and he's actually over the sentry. Oh, nice assassination on the sentry.
That's a good kill right there. A sentry costs 100 gas to kill it and get out. A very successful Oracle harassment thus far.
So he does manage to do that. Kind of an abnormal harass there. Normally we see the probes targeted there, but I guess he saw the sentry exposed. And, you know, that's 100 gas, guys. That's a lot of gas early on to lose in a unit that really gave you no value in the game because you didn't get a force field up. You didn't get the Guardian Shield up. You didn't make hallucinated Phoenixes to scout.
That's right. Well, right now, MaNa building a pylon across the map. Looks like he wants to get aggressive. His Blink upgrade is done. In the meantime, we do have that Nexus done for Lilbow. He does have enough for Photon Overcharge, and he does have an Immortal. So what will MaNa be able to get done here?
Well, it looks like the Oracle is actually going to come over here and try to do some damage, and that is in the wrong place for that Oracle to be. And he's going to go on the Immortal right now. The Immortal was the counter to the Stalkers, and a force field comes down, not doing anything to block, though. The Stalkers right now have MaNa zipping around, and they will now blink out of the base after having assassinated the Immortal. A job well done.
Indeed, if you can kill off the Immortals one by one, you can gain a big advantage with Blink Stalkers. But if he can hold on to these Immortals, get those extra shots off, they deal a lot of damage to Stalkers very, very quickly. So right now we see MaNa waiting for this Photon Overcharge to possibly go off. Maybe he's going to blink into the main base. Whatever he does, he has to be very decisive.
He's warping in more Stalkers right now. Lilbow on the defense here. You know, with the Nexus cannon activated, that's not an area he can really enter, but of course, that doesn't stay there forever. You have to have the Mothership Core cast that on that, and he doesn't have enough mana for another cast like that. There. Whoa! Really unexpected series of events here. The Observer goes down. Now, the Observer was what was giving MaNa the leverage because the combo of the Observer with the Stalkers allowed MaNa to see onto the high ground and therefore blink into it. So that was a very, very huge moment, and MaNa will now retract back into his expansion.
That's right. There's really nothing for him to do right now. He can't break in anymore. The army of Lilbow has become powerful enough. But hold on. A very nice snipe there, taking out the great harassment unit of Lilbow. He's going to sleep a lot safer at night after that.
And it was pretty crazy, too, because you saw Lilbow actually, in like a millisecond, was able to at least tag those units so that, he could actually see where MaNa's movement was. While that's going on, though, Lilbow, it looks like, okay, look, he's hiding in the bushes.
Yeah.
Does MaNa see? Okay, MaNa.
Okay, he does have his Observer. He sees, though, that there are quite a few Immortals here. With this many Immortals, he is going to have to make some sentries.
He's going to try to destroy these rocks here, and just in time. That was a great play there by MaNa. Destroying those rocks to cut off that army from getting across there. That's going to buy MaNa a few more seconds, and a few more seconds is exactly what MaNa needs.
That's right. He's got to play very defensively coming up here. Those Immortals will tear him apart when you have 3. It's very tough to fight with Blink Stalkers, but he did warp in some sentries. That is a good counter to Immortals in the early game.
Absolutely. He looks like Lilbow, realizing he's lost some time here, is going to go ahead and back up. MaNa a little bit wary right now about moving out on the map. Sends the Observer into the main now of Lilbow to try to gather some information, see just how far along he's teched up. Oddly enough, Lilbow's tech is all actually over here in the upper right in his second base, and you can see there, based on the vision, MaNa hasn't found that yet, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get over there. So this is probably a pretty confusing moment for MaNa to get down there and say, hey, where is all your stuff? I don't quite have any idea as to where you're at in this game.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a Colossus pop out here in just a second. He does end up seeing that Colossus, so that's going to tell him pretty much what he needs to know. And what he needs to know is that he's behind army-wise. He's going to be behind in Immortals and Colossus, which, as we get to the late game, will be the important units that win those fights for you.
Yeah, you know, one good rule about PvP is it's really the robo units that end the game. They do so sometimes at the start, but they almost always do at the end. And so anybody who's got a really developed robo tech tree where you got a lot of Immortals, you got especially a lot of Colossus, And, you need observers, too. That's something you definitely want to watch for. And this observer barely does not get out. Nicely done there by Lilbow, shutting down any intel. And it looks like Lilbow may take this opportunity now, since he can move freely without the knowledge of MaNa, to move out. But MaNa has these stalkers over here, and he may try to do a counterattack into the expansion here of Lilbow.
Well, I think you're right. I think he will do a counterattack. The thing is, he will not be able to hold on at home. His army is way insufficient to deal with what Lilbow has. Oh, but he forces the recall. A great move by MaNa, forcing Lilbow to come home.
And he even gets a Colossus in the process. Absolutely insane play there by MaNa, forcing a run back there, a retreat there from Lilbow, and taking out one of the most important unit in the PvP army, especially thinking, oh my god, he's gonna actually go in for again.
He's coming back
crazy.
for more. MaNa wants to do another counterattack. Coming in here, the Nexus cannon does go off, but it looks like MaNa gonna continue to push forward here. A blink forward into the main base, and there is nothing here to defend. Lilbow just gonna go with the counterattack.
But the other question we have to ask ourselves is, does MaNa have enough to defend from an even bigger army attacking back at home? I'm not sure he does. Nexus cannon activates Immortals and Colossi and Zealots in trying to get into position here.
All right, some great force fields do go down. There's only one Colossus there, so it looks like he is targeting down this Nexus. He should be able to get it without a big problem. But in the meantime, those Stalkers clean up probes at his home too.
He gets the Nexus, but the question is, can he actually get away? MaNa now chasing down these Immortals, even with probes in here. He's gonna get the probes to try to block in front of him!
The probe drill to capture all of the Immortals. A brilliant and beautiful move that we never see out of MaNa.
Now the counterattack from the counterattack kicks in here. I don't know exactly if Lilbow's going to be able to hold this. It's going to be tough, but MaNa needs to do damage, and do damage quickly, because he's already lost his Nexus.
That's right, but he has a way better army. He has 3 Immortals and 3 Colossus against 0 Immortals and 0 Colossus. So it's just going to be Stalkers and Zealots trying to hold on for Lilbow.
But Lilbow is in a good position over here, just outside the expansion, his own expansion. He's going to try to come in here for a flank, and he's going to do that right now.
Right, Colossus does pop out for Lilbow. Lilbow coming in with a flank from 2 different sides. Nice Colossus micro coming out here for MaNa. MaNa pushing forward, takes out the Colossus. The Stalker's gonna fall as well, and it looks like MaNa should be able to clean up this army.
MaNa doing a fantastic job, but we need a few more reinforcements in here. Remember, Lilbow still has additional gateways by comparison. He's trying to come in here right now. And Lilbow just does a great job.
Oh my god. The fact that he held on there, MaNa had way better units in his army, but a great flank, some nice micro from both sides. Being able to take down that army with that additional Nexus still in play, Lilbow is crawling right back into this game.
Lilbow, looking just fantastic. The Nexus is going to finish here now for MaNa, so they'll be on even bases for the time being, but it is double robo production compared to, I believe it's single robo production here for Lilbow. Lilbow may gear up for another attack. I would assume he's waiting for another Colossus to come out. You really have to wait. Once a Colossus pops out, you're either going to wait in your base or you have to leave immediately. You don't wait until a Colossus is like halfway done.
Indeed. It's really the strongest unit in the Protoss arsenal. It's the one that does so much splash damage from such a range. Very hard to kill. But right now, we do have MaNa moving across the map with those additional Colossi. As far as army size goes, it's pretty close right now, but the Colossus count does go to MaNa.
Okay, MaNa now coming in here right now. Oh, and a time warp there to try to get that, but a counter time warp there to slow down the Stalkers from getting on top of the Colossus.
But he does have Blink as well. A great move there by MaNa. A third Colossus coming in. MaNa with some great micro here. The Zealots trying to come up, not able to do anything. We do have a lot of Stalkers though walking forward, trying to target down these Colossi, but MaNa blinking over. A beautiful attack here by MaNa, and he should be able to finish off Lilbow now.
He's going to try to come in here and go for the kill. It's 3 Colossi. That's so much damage. And a Blink forward on top of the Colossus. Will the Colossus manage to get away? It does not. And an excellent kill there. MaNa really cleaning up this game. But at the same time, there's just, it looks like enough Stalkers and Zealots and another Colossus here. It's a bit of a seesaw battle. GG! MaNa wins! Fantastic! It was so neck and neck right there at the very end.
It certainly was.
It was pretty wild. They were just down to a few more units, but then you saw On the minimap there, some more stalkers coming down there. And the additional
warping at the end, really sealing the deal for MaNa. Lilbow, though, with some amazing holds there in the mid-game. These two just fighting tooth and nail, and now it's tied up 1-1.
I gotta say, these guys are so evenly matched here. Lilbow, he's been doing a great job, but MaNa, he does seem to adjust, and this has been, I guess, the story of this entire tournament is that MaNa always, even if he loses the first game or loses the first 2 games, he manages to read his opponent correctly. We saw him do the same thing as well to 4GG. It's just very impressive, and I'm really curious to see how game number 3 actually turns out.
Well, it's anyone's guess at this point. These two are fighting so close to each other. The fact that some of these battles are going to the player with the vastly inferior army because of a nice flank or nice positioning or a smart move.
Right.
Lilbow had a huge army advantage early on, and MaNa forced him back, picked off a Colossi, did a great counterattack with his Blink Stalkers later on, and then held against a bigger army at his Nexus despite losing it. I mean, these are already so forth and back, these PvPs.
It's just wild to see some of the plays here. Like when we saw MaNa actually just shut down those rocks to stop Lilbow from actually doing a push. They probably would have won that game. I mean, talk about a time saver there. Absolutely beautiful. And it looks like we're already going to be going into our next map here. It's going to be Iron Fortress, Artosis.
That's right. This is another big 4-player map, just like the first one that we saw tonight in Cactus Valley. So it's really going to matter. Do they find each other early? Does someone miss that scout because the map is too big? A lot of tricks could be played because of it.
This is a very cool map, PvP. It is a map, though, like we were saying earlier, with these 4-player maps, you don't always get the scouting that you really need. So it can be tough. Let's see exactly how they decide to open as we are now ready for game number 3. Let's make some noise. This is the WCS Europe Season 3 Finals. Down here in the bottom right, in the blue, from France, it's Lilbow. And in the upper right, in the red from Poland, he is MaNa!
All right, here we go, guys. They're both hugging that right-hand side of the map. We'll have to see in what direction they scout, if at all, who finds who first. And of course, keep an eye on these build orders. So far, MaNa has really favored Twilight Council openings, whereas Lilbow has mixed it up a little bit more.
Well, on this map, with it being so close together, I would say... Now, actually, let me ask you this, Artosis. I'm not totally sure. Would you think a Stargate opening would be good, assuming they knew the spots? Like, or would that be bad because they're both, if they were to both go Stargate, they'd interact with each other by bumping into each other by air, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is a fact. Stargate can be great on big maps because it's just so mobile. You're not really going to be out of position with your main army. You're just going to be flying around with 1 or 2 small harassment units. So definitely can be a good one, but that makes it a little bit predictable. And for instance, if both of them do go Stargate, and one of them guesses that the other did, they can go Phoenix instead of Oracle, which gives you almost a free victory.
Well, it's going to be that standard PvP opening, Artosis, for both of these guys. They're going to go ahead and get the gateway, then get the cybernetic score, and that's really where we get to see this matchup actually unfold, is what tech are they going to pick here off the cybernetic score. And they got several different options. Occasionally we see 2 gates to try to mask or disguise what they're doing for a little bit. Other times we'll see them go into a Stargate or a Twilight Council, sometimes even a Robo.
That's right. Well, right now, MaNa, once again, for the 3rd game in a row, going for that very quick Twilight Council. Now, he is the only one that's going to scout off. Lilbow has just decided to skip scouting altogether, knowing there's a possibility he misses his opponent's base. So he doesn't have a lot of intel.
This was a Protoss versus Protoss style that was actually caught on in StarCraft 1, which was because you think it's only one probe, it's not that many minerals if it's not mining and scouting, but really in the early game, it's a lot. So some of these Protoss players in PvP specifically will actually just sit back and wait until they have better intel, or I should say macro up and then get intel much later. And what they'll do is they'll do a kind of all-encompassing safe build.
Well, safe. Who needs it? We have a Dark Shrine coming up for MaNa right now.
Two completely opposite builds. Now, MaNa's DT Shrine Rush is so fast, there's always a possibility that this might completely and totally catch Lilbow off guard. And a lot of times in PvP, if a DT just gets there and you're just not ready, that's it. The DT's one-hit your probes and you die.
Well, right now, Lilbow doesn't have it. Oh, Lilbow just started a robotics. That means he can get that detection out, get that observer out very quickly, and detect the DT. But will he have an observer there when the first Dark Templar comes? Sometimes you send it out to scout right away.
It happens so often. It's a tough one, and especially, I mean, let's go into Lilbow's mind for a second. He hasn't really left the map. I guess he's just now sitting out one probe, but for the time being, I mean, you know, he doesn't know what's out there. He might, if that probe can't find anything out, he might have to send that observer out to figure out what on earth exactly his opponent's doing.
Well, right now that Dark Shrine is finishing up, lined up with that Warp Gate very nicely. We should see Dark Templar warped in momentarily. Here we go, 2 of them. He's really committing to this.
2 DTs, you know, sometimes people only make 1 because the DTs are so expensive, and when you tech to it, you don't have a lot of wiggle room post-rush with the DT, and if it doesn't do damage, you can be in a lot of trouble. But the DTs are coming here now. There is a sentry.
The observer is already on the way. The 2 Dark Templars walking up, one going towards the Nexus, one going towards the ramp. Gonna start hitting these stalkers who are on hold position to stop them.
No force field. No force field was there.
That observer's about to pop out. I don't know if these Dark Templars are gonna do much damage. Here we go. And look at that, the sentry gonna force the ramp. Beautiful move here by Lilbow. He's gonna trap and kill both Dark Templars.
And that's a huge blow there for MaNa. MaNa, those DTs literally didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I guess they scraped off some shields on stalkers, but that's obviously just going to regen. So MaNa is in a very tricky position. Now, I wouldn't call this for Lilbow just yet, because this has been such a pendulum series. It's been such a seesaw set that we've had so far. So a lot of back and forth here. But Lilbow should be in pretty good shape pushing out now. MaNa did get Blink, and that did finish researching. So let's see if he can hang on.
Well, you know what, Lilbow, he had to make the robotics. He had to make 2 observers. He has that mothership core, and he has a sentry. So we actually have MaNa with a good amount of stalkers here, and he's going to go ahead and press Lilbow back. Lilbow having to retreat at the moment.
And I think this is going to be something he will continue to follow this up. He's going to make sure that Lilbow is not comfortable on that map. We have additional pylons being spread out on the map, it looks like. So MaNa, essentially MaNa has map control and does have the option to try to come in here and punish Lilbow whenever he leaves. Oh, but a nice blink there. Maybe MaNa overextending a little bit.
Yeah, it does look like a slight overextension. He does have to back out Lilbow, getting a couple of kills. But right now, the game is really quite even.
Yeah, it's pretty neck and neck. I don't know how comfortable Lilbow is leaving, but I would definitely say that this a situation Lilbow can build into, you know, a very solid late game position.
Well, we do have that robotics just starting up for MaNa now. Looks like he wants to go ahead, get his own detection, maybe get some Immortals and some Colossus, as this game is starting to look like it's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, that's what happens in PvP a lot of times, is that you have a kind of wild and crazy early game in PvP, and then the Robotechs finish, and a few minutes pass, and then you see people tech into Immortals, tech into Colossus, and the problem is there's really like a defender's advantage with that, right? Like, if we're both making Colossi, and I attack you, I'm just going to have my stuff. I'm going to have more of it because you had to walk across the map to get it, so I should have one more Colossus. But, well, hold up here. We have kind of a surprising move here from Lilbow to move out.
Yeah, he's trying to feel out where he is exactly in the game right now. See if he can maybe have a few more stalkers than his opponent here. At the moment, Lilbow does have a stalker advantage.
He did this in the previous game as well. He unloads all of his chrono boosts on his gateway. I think this is like Lilbow PvP style.
Well, he is pushing forward. He does have a slight advantage with that. Of course, MaNa does have, well, he actually does not have a Mothership Core, so he just has to use his Blink Micro here. The Zealot's coming forward, tanking a lot of damage, dealing a lot as well. Lilbow continuing to press forward here. A Dark Templar getting warped in. That can add a lot of damage as well. Does get targeted down, though, because he does have that Observer.
Oh, the Stalkers from MaNa are stuck in the back. When they try to blink away, this gives a beautiful concave over here for Lilbow, and that is just, I think that might just be too many Stalkers. Artosis, GG!
Lilbow once again with some very crisp aggression, pushing forward when he has that slight Stalker advantage and just out-microing MaNa there.
So we've seen enough PvPs here from Lilbow. He's got this style. He does go into Blink, he does get the Robo Bay, but every once in a while we've been catching kind of the tail end of this. But when he does go into just straight up mid-game, he unloads all of his Chrono Boosts on his gateways.
You know, he wants a lot of Stalkers. He has that killer instinct that is just so important in Protoss versus Protoss. If you can figure out when you have a slight Blink Stalker advantage, you can really push that forward. You're just dealing more damage than your opponent. You both have that great blinking retreat to make sure your Stalkers don't die, and over time you can just win that battle. And we've seen that time and again out of Lilbow here.
Lilbow, he's got the lead, but let's not forget that pretty much the story here of this WCS is that MaNa continues to overcome and continues to adapt. And you can see that there's definitely a fragile window right at the start of the mid-game that Lilbow really just goes for the jugular. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, he's definitely a deadly competitor here. But you know what, MaNa, I think that he can still do it. He can still fight back. We do have the fourth map coming up, and that is going to be Coda, a pretty normal map. I'm excited to see, does MaNa continue with just Twilight tech? Every single game so far, he's chosen to go Twilight, but with slightly different builds, whether that's Dark Templars or a quick Robo for Observers, but it seems like that's where he's really comfortable.
Well, you know, Lilbow, he's keeping that lead at least so far, but it's first to 4 wins, right? So there's still a long road ahead for both of these players. The map we are going to be doing is going to be Coda, and that is actually loading up right now.
All right, guys. Coda, this is one of the most standard maps. We never really see it banned out, and of course in a best of 7, we play in every single map if we make it that far. I don't think that this map really favors either of these players, but we'll see.
All right, guys, let's get hyper going into game number 4 between Lilbow and MaNa. In the upper left, in the blue, from France, he is Lilbow. And his opponent down here in the bottom right in the red, from Poland, he is MaNa.
This is a big game right here. If MaNa wins, he ties it up. If not, it's match point for Lilbow for the rest of the evening.
Well, let's keep our eyes peeled on the normal point in the PvP, the mid-game, where the game starts to solidify and stabilize. Because in most of the StarCraft matches we cast Artosis, when it gets to that point in time, then we see the Colossus tech start. We see Immortals come out. We see the players, juggle with the idea of maybe taking a third base versus getting more gateways. But with Lilbow, I mean, he just all of a sudden, I think he's banking Chrono Boost and then just getting just a ton of Stalkers here and suddenly just barreling forward and doing a ton of damage.
If you do invest in a lot of Stalkers, then that means that you're skipping a lot of other tech units. So you need to deal some damage with that. You need to trade them efficiently. But it's a very popular style overall. A lot of people like to try to kill with those Blink Stalkers and rely on their micro, whereas MaNa so far, he's mixed up quite a bit, but I feel like he's trying to win more strategically here. And you know what? This is a pretty good map for that. I think that this is a map where he can probably hold on. It's going to be hard to blink up that ramp into the natural, and I think that, MaNa has a good shot of tying it up.
We do see MaNa now coming out here on the map. And it looks like his probe is looping through the southern part and now going through the middle. A lot of times you'll see people hide structures outside the opposing player's base, so you can, for instance, warp in a fast oracle, and then even someone who's got a pretty good game sense, kind of in-game clock in their head, you can get there a little bit quicker. So what MaNa's doing now is he already checked for that, and now he's going to come up here. Lilbow, by the way, similar to game number 3 that we saw, which he won, by the way, he does not scout. He actually stays back home and just does sort of a middle-of-the-road build because he wants to use that extra probe to mine extra minerals because, believe it or not, guys, that does add up, especially in early game.
Yeah, well, you know what? There was a nice scout there, but he didn't see all that much. He did get to count all 3 pylons, so he knows there's nothing out on the map right now. And that's something that's going to make him rest easy. But that Stargate goes up immediately, and both players going for Stargate. The next thing we have to watch for is, do they both go for Oracles, or does anyone try to go Phoenix?
Phoenix is such a hard counter to Oracle, but you normally, if you don't know that they're going Oracle, you can't always guarantee that you're going to be in good shape to actually do that. We do also get games in PvP where both players are now stuck going for Phoenixes, because if one guy gets a dominant number of Phoenixes, then they kill the other group of Phoenixes, and then the Phoenixes that are alive from the winning battle then pick up everything on the ground and kill it, and then it kind of snowballs. Then you go to the base, you kill the probes. So this could be kind of funny. For now, though, we see both players not going for Phoenixes and instead going for Oracles.
All right, well, the Oracles will be attacking each other's bases. They'll probably both make a Phoenix after that to kill off the Oracles. We'll see if they want to stay on Phoenixes or not, but the next thing we really have to watch for is, do either of these Oracles get a bunch of kills?
Yeah, and it can be pretty scary. I mean, the Oracle kills a probe in basically a second, maybe even like a little bit under a second. So if you're not completely ready, now both players should be a little bit suspicious that there's an Oracle coming for them, because that's just, it's such a typical PvP build.
Yeah.
But as I say that, I see the Stalkers are actually worth the ramp there for MaNa. I don't know if there's necessarily enough over here to defend. The Oracle now coming down here. Apparently MaNa not suspicious. This might be coming in here. Gonna go right through the back, right towards the workers.
All right, he's gonna have to use his Nexus Cannon here. Already getting some kills. 4 kills on this Oracle. That is a really quality Oracle.
Really nicely done there. And not even really losing any HP. Meanwhile, the Oracle coming in here now for MaNa.
Ooh, he just barely gets out of there. And that really didn't work out very well for him. You only ended up getting 1 probe kill there against 4. So right now we definitely have a slight advantage for Lilbow.
Yeah, Lilbow, I mean, he definitely put some hurt on there for MaNa. MaNa at least did not lose the Oracle, if you want to make this cast like half glass full, because you can go ahead and tag your opponent's Stalkers with that, so keep an eye on where they're moving around, which can be pretty helpful, especially on a map that's got a lot of places you can run around to. Hold up, we got another Oracle coming in here. Lilbow going in for a second strike right now.
Yeah, and he's actually getting a lot of kills as well.
Oh, that's like almost too many kills.
Yeah,
wow.
That's a lot, guys. The Phoenix ended up killing off the Oracle, which is very nice, and this gives an air advantage to MaNa, but so far he's lost like 8 probes, and that's a big chunk of your economy.
Yeah, so I gotta say, pretty bad start here for MaNa. Lilbow is doing a good job. I wouldn't say he's doing anything like spectacular, as like just, surprisingly MaNa doesn't have his Stalkers there in the right spot to defend against that Oracle.
Well, right now he is flying across with his Oracle. If he can get some counter kills, that'll be fantastic. He does have some Phoenixes to kind of help out and lift up Stalkers, but instead just gonna run for the time being.
Oh, and he's going to come in here with these extra Phoenixes in air versus air to try to go ahead and take out some of these extra Stalkers so they cannot get away.
Well, you know what? He does end up killing one off, but we have more Stalkers here for Lilbow. He is going to go ahead and chase MaNa out of here. MaNa continuing to make some Phoenixes, Lilbow as well. And if they keep on this route, that's going to be great for MaNa because he has that Phoenix advantage.
Yeah, it's kind of... This is really fun to catch PvPs where it does get into mass Phoenix. We also just recently, when we casted SOS trapping with the mass Phoenixes, it was pretty wild. We might have some of that here now. The Phoenixes can be used a little bit like the Oracle, just as a group to try to come in here and just pick up any probes or let's say a sentry, something like that, and then gun them down. But you also got to be careful because when you get behind in the Phoenix count, then the other Phoenix player just gets such a massive lead.
Yeah, that's very true, but it looks like Lilbow has chosen to go ahead and switch up his tech a little bit. He's going for that +1 ground attack. He's going for a Twilight as well. But MaNa not going to stay on Phoenixes. He realized he's already won the Phoenix War. There's not a lot more for him to do with building more, so he's going to go into Colossus tech here while trying to harass.
And so he's going to come in here and kill off the remaining Phoenix. Looks like he's not going to go for the Mothership Core. Instead, going to back out. So that's a really good job there by MaNa. This makes it almost like a permanent problem for Lilbow to try to get out of his base because these are
going to be useful for the rest of the game. Like, MaNa's going to continue to fly in there, continue to try to kill off the Mothership Core, pick up probes, any units that are out of position. And that might force a lot of Stalkers made by Lilbow, which is something MaNa wouldn't mind.
And we have a second Robo Bay here being made for MaNa. So MaNa, what he's doing is he's keeping Lilbow trapped. Even though Lilbow's got a lot of strong gateway units, he doesn't have any real way to get out of his base. And then we're having like a tech leap here from MaNa, where MaNa is just going to get so many powerful robo units that should kind of clear this gap where MaNa would normally be vulnerable but can't be attacked due to the Phoenixes.
Well, right now MaNa, he got a good scout off. He saw a lot of gateways. He realizes that Lilbow is once again, like you were talking about before, Taste, is going for mass Stalkers. So if he can get out enough Immortals to complement his Phoenixes, he is going to be in a great position.
Well, he's pumping them out 2 at a time, but then again, that will not be enough if their Stalker Blinks are going to have to get in there and assassinate those Colossi, or excuse me, Immortals before they actually get the shots off they need to have. You've got to also sometimes be conservative if you think you're about to be attacked here with the Phoenixes, about do you want to use all of your Phoenixes to just help defend and pick up half the army while the Immortals dish out damage. It's kind of a funny thing. We talked about this a lot in StarCraft 2. Do you want to pick up 1 unit at a time? Do you want to pick up a lot? Right now, he's using the Phoenixes to try to keep the Stalkers on the defense back here for Lilbow.
Well, he's doing some reasonable harassment, keeping Lilbow at home. Lilbow has a gigantic ground army right now, but we do have MaNa making some Colossus. He's already got 4 Immortals. He's already got a good amount of Phoenixes, and adding in these Colossi, that is going to make his army just much better than Lilbow's. But right now, he would lose a heads-up fight, so he's going to sit at home, continue to defend, and get exactly the unit composition that he needs to win this game.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the different entrants into, a very stabilized mid-game, kind of pushing towards late game here from both of these guys. But MaNa, not having another base has to really do something pretty quickly. However, Lilbow's actually moving out.
All right,
I didn't expect this. I thought he would stay back home.
Well, Lilbow, he has to press his army advantage. These gateway units that he has, the Stalkers and the Zealots, they won't win when both of these players are maxed out. They need to go do something right now, so he is pushing forward strong.
All right, he's coming down now. Is MaNa going to be able to hang on? We do have some Templars back here at home. There are Immortals and Colossi here for MaNa, ready to defend.
All right, we'll see if he does anything. We do have the Phoenixes doing a counter.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Oh, beautiful feedbacks there by the High Templars.
He literally set him up. He literally was completely duping him. He wanted that army to come out, and he wanted MaNa to get greedy, try to come in there, take out some probes, and punish his opponent for being on the map. But there was a Templar for each Phoenix, so he could feedback that, just use the energy, their mana, and turn into damage and just destroy him.
Well, right now, it may be looking to a lot of people out there like Lilbow has a great advantage. He has a very strong army, just killed off those Phoenixes. And hey, he has his 3rd base up in mining. But MaNa's army right now is getting ridiculously strong. He's already got 4 Colossi and 4 Immortals. The closer we get to 200 supply on MaNa, the more one-sided his victory in a battle will be.
And there is a possibility that Lilbow might have to do something about that. But the problem for Lilbow is that he can't get up the ramp over here to the second base of MaNa because the Colossi are just so strong. They all fire in a line. It's like, moving your army through a funnel. But MaNa now moving out. Artos is at 163 supply. It looks like he's decided he has that critical number of Colossi comboed with Immortals and also backed with enough meat in front of it like Stalkers and Zealots so that they don't take the more central key units, the robo units, don't take that much damage.
Well, right now he does feel that way, like he can do something now. Lilbow just needs to get a big concave. Notice him spreading his army out here. This is brilliant. He needs to make sure that he's flanking from multiple angles to make those Colossi confused, to make them so they aren't focusing their fire on a big clumped army.
Look at this. He's even getting some more pylons up here. Anything that maybe can draw some fire, anything that can allow him to warp in under a Colossus maybe, anything. So he's going to go poke up here.
Now this part is really important. If he comes, he needs to throw down a time warp. He needs to slow this down and let his Colossi deal lots of damage. Lilbow being very cautious here. MaNa as well.
This is a nail biter here. Lilbow just is trying to hold his position for as long as possible against a very powerful tech army. He's slowly but surely poking in.
All right, here we go. 8 Colossi, a couple time warps going down. We have Lilbow pressing forward, a huge concave of Stalkers, but these Colossi are dealing so much damage.
Unbelievable. The Colossi dealing damage, but the Stalkers blink up. Right now, he has to have as much as possible in front of the Colossi to block off the other Stalker zealots and everything, and it looks like he does!
MaNa pushing forward now. The 4 Immortals still alive here in the front, beating up those Stalkers. Lilbow retreats for the time being, warping in some more units, doing the best he can, but MaNa, he's only on 2 bases against the 3 of Lilbow. He needs to continue to press this advantage.
And we have the perfect plan here from Lilbow. He wants to warp in Zealots to counterattack, to try to distract MaNa. But MaNa, though, he might be able to just poke into this 3rd base. He's going to destroy these rocks and head northbound.
Well, right now we actually have Lilbow running around the other side of the map. MaNa is way out of position right now. He doesn't even have MaNa for a recall. So this is a big deal. Lilbow making a very strong move with this counterattack.
Right now we're in a bit of a base trade scenario, but there's more base for Lilbow than there is for MaNa.
All right, it looks like he's going to be able to go ahead and kill these Nexi off. We have to really take a look at how many minerals both these teams have. And it looks like right now these 2 Colossi going to be picked off by the Stalkers. Very nice moves here by Lilbow, but MaNa has a very strong army over in Lilbow's base as well.
We also have to keep in mind any probes they can pull out here to try to hide buildings on the map is critical. The 2nd base is being chewed apart down here in the south, but also at the same time, it has been breached here for Lilbow. Lilbow going to lose that Nexus very quickly. I'm not even sure how many probes can get out on the map here for either player.
Well, right now it looks like just a few on either side. A lot of Dark Templars coming up from Lilbow. He's taking a big risk here. He hopes to be able to find a location where there aren't any observers.
Oh my God, he's massing DTs, but MaNa has observers!
This is a big deal. He spent all of his money on this, so right now both of them just killing each other off. Neither of them are going to be mining at all at this point.
Well, I guess we have to start looking at the pylons on the map, right? We have to see where's the last building that could possibly be stamped out. We had a draw earlier today, but we won't have a draw on this one.
Oh! And it looks like the Dark Templars, most of them taken out. By the way, guys, both players have exactly 1 probe, and that's a huge deal. MaNa has enough for a Nexus. Lilbow does not.
And all he has to do then, I would think, is set up a Nexus and... Yeah, if he just sets up a Nexus somewhere and mines some minerals and just starts over economically, it would be up to Lilbow to full-on engage and take out that expansion.
All right now we do have a pylon up there. Both of these players are revealed, so everyone knows where all the buildings are, but hold on. Oh my God, are we going to see Lilbow blink in against that pylon? MaNa's going to have to... He put down a Nexus.
He put down a Nexus. And I don't think it would be viable for him to try to, Lilbow to try to, maybe he wants to try to just right-click on the Nexus. I don't know if it's going to work, but there's so many Colossi here. This pylon goes down. MaNa literally has to make this Nexus survive. There's almost nothing left. Lilbow does not have an economy and never will this game.
That's right, he has to win with what he has right here. If he can kill off that Nexus, he wins. But if he does not, MaNa will be able to win. Here we go. He's coming in with the big flank, trying his best. He's going to try to target down this Nexus, blinking forward. The Zealots surrounding it. Can't MaNa stop him? Oh! Lilbow kills MaNa's last building.
Unreal. You know what's funny about that, guys? Colossi don't block units at all. You can run right underneath them. You just literally run right under their long legs, and he shot down the Nexus. Man.
It was a brave move indeed. Lilbow definitely deserving to pick up that victory. And wow, I just got to hand it to him, man. That was, again, some killer instinct, a great counterattack, and a great Nexus snipe.
Yeah, it was a really fantastic game. I mean, I just got to say, I did not know who was going to win that until the last second.
Yeah. In a heads-up fight, MaNa wins, but Lilbow just skipped that. He went for the Nexus. It was a great move.
All right, we're going to go ahead and send it over to the expert desk. Guys, what are your thoughts on that absolutely insane game?
Thank you very much, Tastes. Our thoughts, we're mind blown after that last game right there. We'll get into that in a little bit, as we do want to look at it a little bit closer in a couple of moments. But Roddy, you've been watching the series with your eyes glued to the screen. Many times you've said, MaNa, you've got it, got it. No, Lilbow.
Yeah, I'm still lost for words over what just happened over there. This was probably the only moment in history where instead of using the money that you have to go for a Nexus, build like 2 assimilators and 2 pylons, because those would have never died. You know, MaNa's army was so much stronger than Lilbow's army. That's insane. Like, I don't know how Lilbow keeps winning these games that he's not supposed to win. Even in game 1 on Cactus Valley, he's not supposed to win that game anymore, but somehow there are 15 Stalkers, blocks it with a forward blink, and MaNa's Stalkers are trapped. I don't even know what I'm watching, Sean.
I mean, what is it? Is it just Lady Luck on his side, or what, Pig?
He's got killer instincts. I mean, who in that position, they scout the hallucinated Phoenix and says, you know what, I'm just going to split my army, I'm just going to jump on this Nexus and focus it down. Like, there's so many decisions like that where he's just being clutch and he's been in MaNa's face. Going back to game 1, non-stop blinks right on top. I think he's kind of just throwing the kitchen sink at MaNa right now, and he's somehow finding these openings.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the most amazing micro battles. Like, normally, Stalker for Stalker, it's like, okay, we see that every day, all day long, but to see these two guys do it on this stage in these incredible matchups, it's amazing. And like Kevin talked about, I really liked the Blink Stalker block that basically won the game. Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to make that choice right now, and he did. I mean, a lot of times those kind of blinks, by the way, can be your death. But in that case, he made the choice as fast as he could to win that game. It's just amazing.
I still feel that there is hope left for MaNa, because I do feel that MaNa is starting to get a pretty good read on the way that Lilbow is playing.
Yeah.
Like Lilbow's style, you can be always aggressive against Terran, you can always be aggressive against Zerg. Protoss, it's hard to attack into Protoss. Blink Stalkers are good, but they're not good against Colossus, you know, Zealots and Immortals. And I feel the way that MaNa approached, you know, game number 2 in particular, where he's just opening up Blink Stalkers himself, then go up to Colossus. Lilbow will attack you. That's just what he does.
Yeah.
Even on Coda, like, I really felt MaNa's playing that game is like, I know you're going to attack. You're not making Colossus. I know you're going to attack. Eventually, that didn't really happen, but MaNa's army was still so much stronger. He did almost everything right on Coda, other than the fact that maybe he should have gone up to 3 bases, but that ending is just insane. I can't blame MaNa for that.
Well, let's take a closer look at that ending, because everyone was just absolutely mind-blown by that. That should have been a MaNa 1. We have it on screen just coming up for you guys at home in a couple of seconds. This was a crucial moment in that last game.
Yep, and I think actually you can see MaNa is very surprised by it at first, because you see on the left side of the Nexus, he will start microing units. He's like, all right, you know, I think I got this battle, let's just not do anything silly. And then suddenly I think the alarm bells went off. He's like, he's gonna go for my Nexus. Like, this is insane. He's actually going for the Nexus. A great call by Lilbow. The only way he was ever going to win this game.
I mean, splitting his army so well here, coming in from 2 sides. He's moving. You can see that on the left-hand side. The Colossus splash is minimized, and he just barely has enough damage output.
Oh my God! For it to come down to just such a tiny decision, like you said, to point out that he was misjudging. That's like, no, he's coming here to fight me. No, he's going after the final building. And so many times, by the way, that probe in the back throws down a pylon as the building gets attacked.
I mean,
if Lilbow's not so lucky in that situation, you're dead. He's not getting a second attack.
What should he have done differently then? If he'd actually identified that this was going to be a Nexus, rush towards that, what should he have done?
I mean, like, looking back at it, like, if you look back at it, the best thing that MaNa could have done is build maybe 2 pylons and 2 assimilators, and no way that all 4 of those buildings will die. But 99 out of 100 times, dropping the Nexus is the correct choice, because you're actually going to start mining, and that puts the timer on your opponent. Maybe he could stand a little bit more forward. The further away you stand from the Nexus, the quicker the Stalkers have to blink. They blink and they're not even past the army. The Zealots will start eating shots.
But he wasn't thinking that way.
No,
that's
of course.
The thing.
MaNa was never, not for 1 second did he think this guy's going to suicide on my Nexus, because who does that? Well, Lilbow does it.
Lilbow does it, and Lilbow goes up 3-1. in this series. A massive result is so close to happening here for the Frenchman. If he wins the next map, he will qualify for the global finals and play at BlizzCon. That next map is coming just now. We're going straight to the commentators. Let's do this.
All right, guys, let's make some noise. We are going into the next game with Lilbow against MaNa.
That's right, it is match point for the rest of the night. If Lilbow wins one more game, not only does he win WCS Premier League Season 3, but he goes to BlizzCon.
And we are ready to get into this game here. Right now, MaNa needs to make a comeback or Lilbow is going to take this championship title. In the left side of the map, in the blue from France, he is Lilbow. In the center right, in the red, home turf advantage here, he is MaNa!
Both of these players have just grinded through an epic season of WCS Premier League. So many great players lie in their wake, and here they are in the finals. Lilbow, one game victory from getting that championship that he came so close to in Season 2. One game victory from going to BlizzCon.
This has just been a fantastic tournament, and I don't think we could ask for a better finals, whether it's the story, the players, or the games themselves. And one thing to notice, Artosis, is that Lilbow, once again, not going to scout. He definitely has a way to approach this game, and I'm wondering if maybe MaNa should have been trying to exploit that, or maybe try to exploit that in this game.
You know what? I do have to agree with what Rotterdam was saying on the desk. I think that at this point,
agree too.
MaNa is really getting a feel for how Lilbow is playing this. Every single game, MaNa is becoming stronger strategically against Lilbow. It's just Lilbow is so on top of his attacks and his movements around the map that he's beating MaNa with those instead of strategically, I would say.
Yeah, I think the thing is Lilbow is just very good at what he's doing. And just manages to kind of maintain that. We do have the Stargate, by the way, coming here for Lilbow.
That's right. It's a Stargate against a 2-gateway opening, so we might actually see a gateway rush coming out of MaNa. He might want to put a lot of pressure onto Lilbow, who's made a wall and up his ramp.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen much play like this from MaNa here yet in this series. Again, a lot of the games here, Lilbow very strong in the mid game. MaNa, I think a very smart player. This guy has been playing all the way since back in Brood War when he was very, very young, was a representative of the Polish scene as a national member, very young in StarCraft Brood War. So he always had a ton of good builds even back then, and certainly has a ton coming in here now. I think Lilbow's been a little bit less flexible, but at the same time, just more effective at what he's done.
Certainly the case. Now, we actually have Lilbow. This is really interesting. He's going for Phoenix play here against a very aggressive 3-gateway attack. This favors MaNa in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenixes don't get good until you have a lot of them.
Yeah.
And this is going to be just such a strong blow early on, unless I guess there's Miracle Micro here. Well, I don't know what he's going to do.
We'll see. It looks like he's going to go across the map with those Phoenixes, but already so many Stalkers over here. 5 Stalkers for MaNa. He should be able to put a lot of pressure on Lilbow up this ramp.
And he's going to come up right now.
Yeah, there's not much to do against that. It looks like he's going to start targeting down that pylon. Of course, another pylon going to be coming down immediately. He needs to finish that warp gate. Very, very important upgrade.
Oh! It's not Oh, it did complete, excuse me, just barely completed. That was so close.
That's right, but the gateway is unpowered for the time being. The 3 Phoenixes do come back. MaNa continuing to warp in. Stalker's pushing up this hill. He's going to get the Cybernetic score. That's a big deal. You don't want Zealots against what MaNa's doing.
And this might just spiral this game into a loss right now here for Lilbow as the Stalkers are now coming up. They're hitting the pylons. He's also supply blocked.
And it looks like we do have a lot of Phoenixes starting to lift these Stalkers up, doing a great job targeting down as the probes come down, surrounding some of MaNa's Stalkers. MaNa starting to warp in some Zealots to help fight these probes. Some good micro from both sides, and MaNa still has a huge advantage.
There's only 1 Phoenix left, and only 2 Stalkers remaining, now 1, and it's still probes out here trying to defend.
And it looks like MaNa takes the game. A huge and much needed victory here from MaNa.
Really, really nicely done. It was a sharp build he picked out. It was an unusual build, by the way, from Lilbow. I mean, MaNa just blindsided him. He was walled in, but then he got the pylon. You couldn't make out of the gateway. By the way, Warp Gate almost didn't finish there. I thought he might be still in a little bit okay shape, but no. Once you get the Cybernetic score, Stalkers can run and then shoot at Zealots. We call that kiting. You can do that to Zealots forever. If you just stay on top of your Stalkers. I mean, Zealots are really there to sponge up damage. And so when you kill the Cybernetic score and your opponent can't make Stalkers and you can,
oh yeah,
it's sort of checkmate.
It kind of is. And you know what? That was a great move by MaNa. I think that Lilbow, he took a little bit of a risk there. He wanted to get a quick and decisive victory with that Phoenix opening. He said, you know what? This is a great map for Stargate. I have this full wall in. He's probably not going to gateway rush me. But it turns out he did. Great strategic choice by MaNa.
All right, guys, we're going to go to a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue on here at the finals between MaNa and Lilbow. Stay tuned.
I move objects with my mind. I climb the tallest mountains and slay dragons. I defend my galaxy from ruthless aliens. I am never bored. I am stronger. I am faster. I am G1.
What's up, guys? We are back, and we are going to be going into the next game here very shortly in the grand finals with Lilbow against MaNa here in beautiful Poland.
That's right. An awesome city, Krakow, a greater crowd even than that. And one of the most fantastic tournaments that I've ever had the pleasure of casting.
Yeah, it's been a great story for each player, great games. And I gotta say, I mean, the way some of these games are ending is just, it's fantastic. MaNa seems to be adapting, but yes. Lilbow is still in the lead.
That's right, it's 3-2. This is once again match point for Lilbow. If he wins here, He wins WCS Premier Season 3. He goes to BlizzCon. It is so big for him. But if MaNa can win this next game, tie it up, bring it to game number 7, he's going to have that huge momentum and, of course, the crowd behind him as well.
Isn't that what he's been doing this entire time? I mean, he gets behind and then he comes back. Our next map is going to be on Dash and Terminal.
This is the craziest map.
It's a really weird map. There's so many different strats you can do here.
Yeah, I mean, this map, you almost never see. You see, most of the games on this map have been ZVZ because the bands go differently there. But this is just a map where it's very hard to predict how it'll go.
We are ready. Let's make some noise. It is time to go into the next game here with MaNa against Lilbow as we are getting closer and closer to crowning a champion. Over here in the top center, in the blue, he is Lilbow! And in the center right, in the red, make some noise for MaNa!
Dash and Terminal. This could be a wild and crazy ride. It's hard to say exactly what these guys will go for. A lot of mind games can come into play. Of course, they're very close by air. We could see that Stargate play. We could see Phoenixes again here from Lilbow.
You know, there just are not other, there's no other StarCraft 2 maps like this. You're very close. As you can see, by air here, but there's also all this space, in the bottom left side of the map you can play with. There's gold bases. It's a very interesting map, and I don't know how often these two have, practiced on this map specifically, or what strategies they've prepared for it.
You know, I have to echo what you're saying here. I think that what we're going to see is very aggressive play out of both players because they haven't probably played many late-game Protoss versus Protoss matches on this map. It's just not a map that you see. It gets vetoed all the time. I can't stress that enough. So this is the map that everyone has the least experience on, which means this is probably going to get down and dirty.
This is going to be a really interesting learning experience because you normally have maps that the guys have had a little bit more experience on. So we might have a strat we've just never seen and may never see again here. There's so much on the line. We are so close to crowning a champion. I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah, well, right now, both of them going for those mothership cores. Of course, those can scout very, very quickly across the map and see what your opponent's doing. A little probe scout here from MaNa. Of course, he has been the one that has been probe scouting against Lilbow, who has given up on probe scouting a very long time ago.
And as you can see, with the location here, it's very easy to come in here with a mothership core and just peek at what your opponent's doing. Now, one thing I look at when I see this map, and I think, I wonder if you'd ever want to utilize, this bottom left location to just hide tech of some sort.
Well, definitely could be the case. Like, if you want to go Dark Templars, no one's going to scout down there.
And actually, I think we might be having just that.
Yeah, it could be. MaNa sending a probe out into a kind of funny location here. We'll see what he wants to hide.
Oh, you know what? He's checking for just that.
Oh,
see
it
if
could
there's any
be.
hit pylons or anything like that.
And hey, he could go ahead for something himself. We do have Twilights going up for both players here. Blink getting started immediately for Lilbow. But we have Blink for MaNa as well. And there you have it. It is Blink. So both players doing mirror builds here. We'll have to see. Does someone want to make a Nexus? Does someone want to make a Robotics? These are the different branches that they can go down from here.
And of course, when you're this close together, it's kind of funny. The mains are the point that might be the most vulnerable, right? Warp Prism, Harass, anything like that. But as they expand, if they do take the gold bases, that would be interesting too. You see that's outside and in between them as well. But you can also just keep expanding away from your opponent, which is sort of interesting. Normally, when you're expanding, you tend to be getting a little bit closer to your opponent.
That's right. Well, right now we do have MaNa actually going for the fast Nexus here. Both of them getting Robos, playing that little bit of safety to be able to get that Observer out. And I think that MaNa's going to be very happy to see that he is the only one going for an expansion right now. That could give him an edge unless Lilbow decides to go and get aggressive right away.
All right, as you can see here, just going to be checking around here with a Stalker, trying to figure out, okay, what exactly is my opponent hiding, if anything, over here. Now he's going to be able to come in here, take a peek, and see the Nexus warping in.
Yeah, and when he gets there, he's going to see it's about halfway done. So he's definitely going to want to go and take his own look at that. MaNa throwing down a pylon, delaying that Nexus. He knows his opponent wants to take it. This slows him down and shows what units that Lilbow has right now. That was a nice move by MaNa.
Well, as you can see here, Blink is now done for both sides. These guys had some fantastic Blink fights when it has come down to that. And I think we're going to see Lilbow, you know, he's been pretty effective at being the aggressor when it came to the Blink Stalkers early on. It looks like he wants to do just that right now and try to come in here and punish this.
Well, he does have a slight Blink Stalker advantage, but with that Nexus up, a Nexus Cannon can go down here. Starts to push forward, putting some damage on that Nexus. We're going to have to see MaNa actually react to this pretty quickly. Does come down with his own Stalkers. Of course, both these players do have Blink at the moment.
And we're going to have a few more warp-ins here. Some more Stalkers going to come down here right now. And I wonder, will Lilbow just stick with the mass Stalkers for a while? He really likes to do that. He's been pretty effective with it.
He certainly has been. But MaNa right now, you know, he does have that Nexus up. He's making enough Stalkers this time, I feel like. You know, he's being very careful about this. Before we saw him kind of going into his tech a bit more, and Lilbow was able to capitalize upon that by making those extra Stalkers and doing some extra damage. But that's not what we're seeing this game.
Now the Observers come up here. He sees the Nexus is finished. He may try to come in here. It looks like the probes weren't quite synced up there at that expansion, so only a few are actually here. The rest of it return to the main. He's going to come up here now. He's attacking these Stalkers. Nexus Cannon was activated. All right, and he does lose one Stalker back there, so good hold there by Lilbow.
Yeah, pretty close on both sides here. You can't really attack into that Nexus Cannon if you have the same amount of Stalkers. It just deals way too much damage. So I'm not sure if MaNa will go again, but it looks like he is posturing. Lilbow, though, actually in the Stalker lead by 1.
Do you think he wants to just use that for Guardian Shield and Stalker versus Stalker coming up here? Or, you know, it's also a smaller little area between the Nexus and the ground below it, so maybe he could get a 1 or 2 force fields off as well?
If he uses a force field and Guardian Shield, that's going to be fantastic. There we go. We do have that Guardian Shield coming up. Oh, a good concave by Lilbow, though. MaNa may be in some trouble here. It looks like Lilbow with this great concave and 2 more Stalkers starting to deal a lot of damage to MaNa.
As we've said many times before, the concave usually beats the convex, and there's just not enough room to maneuver around right now for MaNa, as he's going to go and try to back up now. And so many Stalkers have been gunned down. Lilbow will be making a beeline down here to the center right in an attempt to go possibly for a kill move. I'm not sure what MaNa can do.
MaNa's in a lot of trouble right now, and he's down by 5 workers, and he's down by 11 Stalkers. When you're down by 11 Stalkers at this point in the game, there's almost no coming back. Let's see it, Lilbow pressing forward. He wants his win, he wants to go to BlizzCon. MaNa with paltry forces trying to hold on, and Lilbow looks like he may have too much.
He's coming in now, the Stalkers are going up the ramp, but there's really nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. As Lilbow enters the main, there is nothing he can do. GG! Lilbow is your WCS Premier League champion!
finally did it, Lilbow. Since the beginning, this young man has been saying, I don't want to just be top 4. I don't want to just be pretty good. I want to be the best non-Korean, and he finally wins the WCS Premier League. Another big round of applause for Lilbow. And I have to ask, how does it feel to have reached that goal of yours since the beginning?
I don't know how to put words on this. It's just like a dream. I don't even know how to explain how I feel.
I totally understand. I mean, this is that moment you've been waiting for, dreaming about, like you said. Now, I have one more question, because it's more than a trophy. This win is more than a trophy. It's more than a prize pool. You have pretty much secured your ticket to BlizzCon. He's going to BlizzCon, like he said, ladies and gentlemen. On that plane right there, it's not just the eyes and hearts of your friends, not just your fans in France, not just your fans here, but fans from all over the world are going to be looking at you at BlizzCon. Can you even imagine what that's going to be like?
I can't even imagine. But this is not the end. I'm gonna do my best at BlizzCon. I don't just want to be there to be there. I want to win this title as well.
He wants to win BlizzCon as well. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, your last WCS Premier League champion of 2015, Lilbow.
An emotional victory for Lilbow. After all this work, he's got what he finally wanted. He's the champion of the WCS. He is representing France and the rest of the world outside of Korea at the global finals. He makes it to BlizzCon. And the WCS is such a difficult tournament, a difficult road, especially to qualify for the global finals. He's made it. Roddy, it's been an absolutely wonderful performance. Todd, these past 2 seasons, watching Lilbow getting to the finals in Season 2 against Hydra, failing, coming back to Season 3, and nailing it this time around.
He's grown as a person, he's grown as a player, and we got to witness this firsthand here with him just improving series from series and playing better and better every single time we saw him. And this really is the perfect conclusion here to his progression.
StarCraft hasn't seen something like this in a very, very long time. The last person to do something very similar to this, but never actually did it, was Stefano, who got to the finals in 2013. But it is Lilbow today. A lot of the crowd respecting MaNa, of course, and you can't forget about him. Top 2, a wonderful performance.
Absolutely, a dream weekend, Sean, a dream weekend for all of us who love StarCraft, who love to watch it, who love to play it. What Lilbow did here, I'm actually stunned by it, you know, runner-up last season, and this season, it's not just the fact that he won, but it's also the fact how he won. Defeated 4GG in the round of 16, defeated Jaenong, defeated Hydra in the quarters. Like, I mean, like, come on, can it get any harder than that? Name anyone that he didn't defeat. And you know, the scariest thing is, in my opinion, Sean, is that as crazy good as Lilbow is and as crazy amazing he's been in this tournament, I feel he can even be better. I don't think that this is his skill ceiling.
I'm not surprised that he says what he says about BlizzCon, that he wants to go even further, try and win there. I think Koreans better watch out for this guy, because there is a new French kid on the block, and he wants to, I guess, follow Stefano's legacy here and try and do well in worldwide events.
I have to agree. I really like that. The first thing on his mind, he's like, yeah, I'm going to BlizzCon. And a lot of people just break down and cry right there. And he's like, you know what, by the way, I'm going to kick some ass. And it's like, what a guy to get behind. We've seen him tested in every single way. And we've seen him get lucky too, which, by the way, is kind of a part of a championship. And I'm not trying to take anything away from it. It's just kind of cool. It's part of the magic. Like, things were working out for this young man that wanted to go to BlizzCon, wants to be the best. That's something that I've heard Todd talk about in the past. Whenever you ask Lilbow, it's like, do you want to win this tournament? He's like, yeah, but that's just like a stepping stone. I want to be the best. And people are like, oh, non-Korean. He goes, no, I want to be the best StarCraft player. And this guy is starting to make us believe. And to overcome the momentum here, to beat the players that Kevin just fired off, the best players in this tournament, by the way, maybe minus Colt, I guess. he's just done it. He's done it.
And it's such a massive victory for your nation as well, France. I mean, France have been building Lilbow, Marine Lord, Patrick Drogo for a very, very long time.
Todd.
Yeah. You know, it's Todd and
A legendary player.
Todd kind of paved the way.
You did. But, I mean, thinking back to all the nation wars that your country's played and rising up these young talents to have them break into the WCS, to then go the distance and have him win it at the end as well, is remarkable.
Absolutely, and I feel like it's really because of somebody like Stefano that inspired all the younger generation, guys like Lilbow, guys like Marine Lord, that were really young back then when Stefano was doing really well. They watched this, they were like, I want this as well. They worked very, very hard to eventually achieve it, and I feel that's really why there is such a strong scene coming out of France.
Stefano's the one that made people believe. Like, it's pretty... StarCraft's an intimidating game, and the professional scene is the most intimidating, but a couple of these guys, Stefano namely, has made us believe that, yeah, a guy like Lilbow can rise up and do it.
All right, let's take a look at the bracket for one final time here. We started this weekend with 8 players, and we were left with 1 at the end of the day, and it was Lilbow, who qualifies not only as a champion for this event, but for the global finals at the end of the year, and will be traveling to BlizzCon. And not very long, just a month or so away. Yep, it's been a fantastic weekend of StarCraft 2, and I don't think we've ever really had a weekend like this. This is going to be a weekend that everybody's going to remember, Roddy.
It's been magical, Sean. It really has been. And this is not something we say every weekend, by the way. You know, I think I've been over 50 offline StarCraft 2 events, but this one truly stood out. Before this, it was always 2011 European BlizzCon that I really thought was special back then in Warsaw, Poland. I'm not saying that because I'm standing here, but this was unimaginable. Every single thing that we hoped for, every storyline that we built up, it didn't just fall to pieces. It wasn't dead in the second day, you know, it just kept on going. And the games, we had draws, we had Nexus snipes. Like, I can't even, this is ridiculous. It's been an absolutely great weekend.
I think anybody that was there to witness this will agree that this was one of the greatest moments in tournaments in StarCraft 2. And again, I know we said that a bunch, but
I know.
Really, like,
guys,
I'm not going to
mean
forget
it this time, though.
Esports history
was made. Tasteless.
Well,
it was made.
I love pushing forward in the future. Like, we've got this young generation. Like, okay, you know what, Lilbow? Let's stop talking about him for 1 second. We had a bunch of guys, Zanster, MaNa's 21 years young. We have a great generation of players coming on up. And we just had it announced that, you know, after BlizzCon, which is going to be an amazing tournament, we're heading into Legacy of the Void, and what a way to get in there.
Petraeus, Kung Fu Panda, some of the names that really impressed this tournament as well.
Yep. And that's what we've seen all year long in 2015 is the rise of these younger talent. Roddy, final words before we wrap this up.
Yeah, one thing that truly stands out, we're not hyping these young talents because they actually won a couple series, you know. It's something we often done about. Those are great results. It's the way how they posted those results. Petraeus is armies control, you know, Zanster is mechanics. Those guys are impressive for more than just their results. They're impressive for the way that they play, and I think that's something that I will truly take away from this weekend.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been excellent working alongside you all weekend. I hope you guys in the crowd have enjoyed this weekend. It's been a lot of fun from us coming to Poland. I hope you've enjoyed it on stream as well. But the WCS for 2015 is not over yet. The next stop for last-minute points is DreamHack Stockholm, just a couple of weeks away. And then, of course, it all rounds up at the Global Finals at BlizzCon, where Lilbow, after today, will be present. We'll see you there.